Alright, so today we're gonna have a look at not one, not two, not three, but four different tools, two of which are gonna be very quick, so that's why I kind of lumped them together there. So we're gonna start with the velocity modifier, then we have the key mapper, the SMF player, and the NRPN mapper. So let's get right to it. Start with the velocity modifier. I don't have any controllers on me right now, so I'm going to use this keyboard, this sort of virtual keyboard tool. If you have a controller, you want to use the MIDI in tool and select your physical controller here. Of course, I'm going to use the A-list tool as well, right? These are all tools that have already been discussed, so if you want to check out the corresponding videos, you can find them in the MidiPipe playlist that I made. So yeah, let's start here. So on our keyboard tool, we can set the note on velocity, that's when we press our virtual keys, and the note of velocity as well. So just to show you that that works, press a note here, and in the A-list tool, as you can see, it registered our note on and note off message, and the velocities are correct as well. So let's change them a little bit. The first option we have is scale. So if I set this to 50%, it's going to cut all our velocity values in half, like this. Let me play a note, and as you can see, we now have 64 instead of the 127 value that we actually sent into the tool. So that's the scale part. We can of course shift the velocity as well, meaning we can add or subtract a certain amount. So, we send out a note whose velocity is 127, and what gets registered by the A-list tool is one whose velocity is 101, which is 127 minus 26, right? This one is pretty useful too. We can of course set a minimum and maximum value. So let's set this to something like 64, right? That's kind of 50%. So our note on velocity is 127, the maximum value is 64, and we're clipping to range. So what happens is, well, actually, let me clear this so that it's easier for us to see what is happening exactly. I press our key here, so the velocity for the note on message is 64. That is because we have been clipping values above 64 to the maximum value. Even if I had something different, if I had, let's say, 100, right? That's less than 127, but it's still more than 64. So regardless of that, as you can see, 64 again is the note on message velocity that we get. We could of course filter to range as well, meaning that velocity values outside the specified range are just going to be ignored. So again, let me clear the list here. I'm going to play a note. The note on velocity is 100, but as you can see, that does not get registered. We just get the note off message. So our third option is we can scale to range. This pretty much works like the scale slider. So basically, since our maximum value is 64, and that's about 50% of the actual maximum value for MIDI notes, which is 127, if we set this to 127, we should get 64, I believe. As you can see, that's what we get. But if we set this to 100, we should get something lower than 64. We should get 50. And as you can see, 50 is what we get. So yeah, there's the scale option there. Very useful tool. Since I already have my keyboard here, let's have a look at the key mapper, right? So at its core, this is just a very precise key mapping tool. We can convert a certain key to a certain different key, leaving the rest of the keys untouched, right? So that's how it's different from the transpose tool, which of course transposes everything. Here we can be very precise and surgical. So, let's say that we want to convert C-2 to C# -2. Let me press C. Oh, sorry, that was C#. Let's press C-2. And as you can see, it has been turned into C# -2. We can reset our transformation, right? So whatever we set on key out is going to be reset to whatever value we have on key in. So if we have F-2 here, and we change this to D-sharp -1, and then we reset, it's gonna equalize the key in and key out parameters again. Another very interesting option we have is the invert button. As you can see, we had our lowest note selected under key in, and now under key out we have the highest possible MIDI note. If we set this to the second lowest note, we get the second highest note, and so on and so forth. Very useful stuff. Now another option we have is filter all, and as you can see, we are now filtering the output. Basically, we're blocking every possible MIDI note, right? None of those notes got registered in the A-list tool. We can also solo the selected key in. So now we're filtering out every note except for the key in note. That would be C-sharp -2. So let's press it. And as you can see, that one got through. Any other notes we might be playing would be blocked. So yeah, very useful little tool there as well, the key mapper. Let's get rid of these because next we have the SMF player. And this is pretty cool. This is a MIDI file player, and you might have been wondering why I have this metronome MIDI file on my desktop. Well, it's precisely to show you how this works. So let's edit. As you can see, the name is preserved here. And of course, if you press start, nothing happens because this is just MIDI data. So we need some kind of sound generator like the DLS synth. Again, this one we have discussed already as well, so you can find it in the playlist. Yeah, let's just press start and hear what happens. Yeah, so that was my MIDI file. Now, of course, we don't want any reverb on a metronome. And we probably don't want a piano sound either, so let's use maybe, yeah, a drum kit for that. There we go, that's our metronome. We can of course stop the MIDI file halfway through if we wanted, and then we can continue from the point where we stopped. Right, we can change the playback rate, so let's make it 50%. So half as fast as the original. And here, of course, we can add many different metronome files as well. So here are a couple of possible real-world applications for this. So you have a set list with 20 songs. Every song, of course, has its own BPM value. You could export as many MIDI files. Of course, you would rename them according to the song and set their BPM value in your project before you export them to the actual BPM value of that song. So you would have, you know, song A at, I don't know, 100 BPM, song B at 125. You could build your set list here and kind of have your metronome set list as well, and send that to, you know, your drummer or whatever. Another way you could use this is you could create just one MIDI file, make it, you know, a safe length, probably a little longer than the longest song you're planning on playing, just to play it safe, right? Maybe 10 minutes. And you set the BPM value in your project to 100 BPM. So that means that a play rate of 100% equals 100 BPM. If you set this to 50%, now you have 50 BPM. You can set this to 200 as well, now you have 200 BPM. And so you can manually change the play rate, and this is going to be equivalent to setting the BPM value on your metronome, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, that was the SMF player. And finally, let's have a quick look at the NRPN mapper. And I say quick look because I don't have any equipment that's capable of sending this type of MIDI message, so I'm not going to be able to demonstrate how it works for you, but you know, I've had a look at this and it looks pretty self-explanatory to me, right? So your piece of gear is going to send out a certain NRPN kind of message, and it's going to have a certain most significant byte, I always forget. Well, a most significant an MSB part of the message and an LSB part as well. So you would set the in parameter to whatever your hardware, synth or device is sending into MidiPipe, and then in the out section you can just convert it to something different. And the same you can do for the RPN message section here. So I guess that's how it works. If you're trying this out and you're finding that it works any differently, please by all means leave a comment. But yeah, those were the 4 tools I wanted to discuss today. Thanks for sticking around, and yeah, we're almost at the end, right? I think another 3 videos or so. Hope this was useful to you. See you in the next video next week. Take care.